Emma here from Crafty Gem, and today I'm going to show you how I use my walking foot to sew a knit fabric, so a jersey type fabric. And today I'm going to just show you how I'm finishing off a pair of baby leggings, a pair of little harem pants that I've made out of knit fabric. I don't often work with knit, so it's a bit of an experiment, this one, but we'll see how we go. That walking foot's going to make it a lot easier for me, I think. So yeah, thanks for watching. So today I'm going to be showing you the Janome Even Feed Foot with quilting guide that I picked up a few months ago to help me with a quilt. But today I'm going to use it to stitch up some knit leggings. So this foot, it costs about £40 to buy. My Janome sewing machine is a DC3050. It's quite a reasonable machine. I've had it for about 4 years now. And as I say, I bought this quilting foot to help with quilts, but also it's really great for sewing up knits. So the foot will differ according to the machine that you've got. So I've got a horizontal rotary hook model. It's a category B sewing machine. So these are the details of the part number for this machine. So let's just take a quick look at it. So if we look at it on the machine, you can see I've attached it, so you have to unscrew this screw here and take off your existing foot before you then attach this foot. It does have an arm, a lever here, which will sit on top of your needle arm here. So that helps the walking action when the machine turns up and down. So as you can see, as I turn the machine, the needle threads up and down, and there's feed dogs here at the top, which will pull the top fabric along, and the feed dogs underneath pull the bottom fabric along as normal. So to attach our foot, our quilting foot, our walker foot, you can see here it's got a lever that pulls the feed dogs down. That's going to sit above your needle arm here. So if we bring it across, lift the arm up and place it all on the top of the needle arm, and then put the clasp here in line with the machine coming down, and then put the screw in. Screw that one in. Use our little tool to just finish off. There we go. And that's pretty straightforward, attaching the foot there. So we want both the feet to the walkers to work, so we don't need to adjust anything with the bottom feed dogs. They'll carry on working, and as the fabric goes through, both of the dogs will work in conjunction with each other to allow to pull the fabric through to the next area there. Okay, so let's just show you this in action. I'll just show you on a spare piece of knit fabric that I've got. So I've just got a little piece here. I'll fold it in half like this. I'll just show you how this goes. So in terms of stitch tension, length, and so on, when I'm sewing a knit, I'll use a stretchy stitch. So the stretch stitch on this machine is stitch number 5 here. It's like a zigzag stitch here. So I'll set that to 5 now. And the stitch for the 5 comes in a stitch length of 1. A stitch length of 2.5, and it's in the 1 position here. So it's straight along, and it's a 2.5 stitch by default. I tend to use the defaults when I'm sewing knits. This is a particularly thin knit, so you do want you can use a longer stitch length. Will prevent it from puckering. But I've not had an issue actually with the standard stitch length. I'm using a 70 needle for such a fine piece of knit, fine piece of jersey here. So I've got our foot down. I'll just sew along here and I can show you what that looks like. So as you can see, if I go a bit slower, it's pulling both of the pieces along, and there's no movement there in terms of puckering. So if we take a look at that now, you can see it's quite a very smooth and even stitch. So very smooth and even there. Okay. So these are the little leggings that I'm just finishing off. So as you can see, I've sewn the front and the back together, and I've done these, and they've done the cuffs at the bottom here. So the cuffs at the bottom here, again, with knit fabrics you don't need to overcast the edges if you don't wish to. So I haven't bothered here because I haven't got a serging machine. That would be really difficult with a zigzag stitch anyway, because this fabric is so thin it would just pucker straight away. So that's why I haven't bothered, but it won't cause a problem really with the end garment. So these are the cuffs. They're the inside of the legs there, that I've just pressed to the outside as I did the cuff. And these are going to be kind of quite loose, baggy little stretch pants for summer. And what I'm going to finish now is the waistband. So at the moment I've just got a raw edge here, and I'm going to be attaching a waistband to that. So I'll show you my waistband. This will be my waistband. So I have prepped a half fold into the fabric, and also a quarter turn here, which will then fold over to become that waistband there, and then I'll be putting a piece of elastic in. So whilst I've got this long piece, I'm going to need to sew it together. So with the right side facing, which are this is the wrong side, and that's the right side. The right side on the knit, you can tell because it's got a little, the fabric will have like a little V, and on the wrong side it's like a little bump. So the right side's together, and I'm just taking care to keep my little fold pre-folded here, and I'm going to stitch it with the folding, which will just keep it in place. So once I've got them together, I'm going to just, will I pin them? Will I be lazy and not pin them? I'm going to be lazy and not pin them, given this is going to be a fairly straight stitch. So again, I've kept these together, making sure keeping my fold in place. I'm using a 1 centimetre stitch allowance, or a 3/8 in inches, and I'm just sure here to put the knit fabric again, because it's very thin and very fine. I don't want to for it to get stuck in the machine. If I put it right up to the very edge, then it will get stuck in the machine. So I've just brought it in a little bit to make sure that it won't stick. And so I will put my bead down, do a few initial stitches, and then let the machine carry it. that's my two ends together now with their little fold. And now I'll just press this. So I'm not completely in line, but I'm not too worried about that, because once we put it all together, you won't see that edge. So I'll just press that now. Okay, so now that's been pressed, I will be attaching this to the pants, and I'm going to put this seam here in line with one of the seams, just one of the side seams, either of the side seams really, because we've only got one seam here and we've got two on the pants. Doesn't really matter, and you don't want to have extra seams all the way around, so we'll just put it on the side, is fine. And what we need to do again is use right sides together, so this will be the right side of this piece and the right side of the legs is already turned out, so I'll thread the pants through here and then match this seam, and I'm going to start pinning this seam all the way around. So match this, well, just be careful to match this one up and then we can start to pin. So what I tend to do with waistbands, just to make sure that they're kind of even all the way around, is I'll pin both sides as we go around, and then I know that if I need to stretch it or if I need to pleat it to pucker it because the waistband is too big or the pants too big or whichever way around, I know I'm going to have it somewhat even on both sides. So I'll go ahead and pin all of this round, and once it's pinned round, we'll return back to the machine and put the waistband together. Okay, so we're back and we've pinned all the way around here, and you can see the waistband is slightly longer than the inside of the pants, so I've got a bit of pucker in here. What I try to do is try to kind of stretch it and even it out here. But when you're sewing, you don't really want to stretch this fabric, or else it will just look a bit odd once it's been sewn. So try to avoid stretching as much as you can, and ideally have your pieces the same size, and then you won't have that problem. But given these are just kind of some day pants, they're quite just chilled out and relaxed. Not too worried about how that's going to turn out. So I can take off my bottom portion of my machine so I can get this loop all the way around, and we're going to start to sew these pieces together. So just straighten everything out, make sure everything's okay here, and I'm going to begin sewing. So we'll put our foot down on our seam here and just take out that pin. Just put ourselves down on this seam. And again, we're using a 1 centimetre seam allowance here. Take those pins out now that we're secure. Put the foot down. Just sew a few beginning stitches. This has an automatic start and a stop stitch when you press the reverse pedal, so that's quite handy for us. And then we begin. So again, I'm just guiding this fabric. I'm not going to pull or push, otherwise we'll get some weird puckering results. So I just be gentle with it and let the machine take it through. And remove our pins as we go along. We don't want to sew over the pins because we damage our needle. Do our last little stitch, finishing stitch, cut the threads, and there we go. We've brought this round. So we can just take a quick look at that waistband there. You can see it's nice, not too much puckering going on here where the waistband didn't quite fit. Looks fairly even. Once the elastic's in anyway, you won't notice that. You've got two options here. We can either hand stitch this underneath and close the gap and close the edge here. So that's our outside edge, that's our inside edge. So what we can do is once we've turned it, we could slip stitch the two ends together. That's one option. Or our other option is we can turn it fully and make sure that this edge is over the line that we've just done. If we can pin this like just once it's been turned, if we pin this, you can see here, slightly over our stitched edge, what we can do is on the right side is stitch in the ditch. When we stitch in the ditch, it will pick up the stitch on the other side and give us a nice neat edge. That's the option I'm going to go for, because it'll give us a more secure edge, it'll give us a neater edge, and also I hate hand stitching. I don't hate it, but for garments like this, I wouldn't do it. I'd rather do, if I'm going to hand stitch, embroidery is great, but for putting together clothes, I'd rather use a machine where I can. So what I am going to do is I'm going to pin around, I'm going to fold my seam allowance there, my 1/4 inch under, and just make sure it's over that line and just pin all the way around. Once that's pinned, then I can stitch it with a machine. So I'll just do the pinning now. I'll show you this first one. So we've made this sure this one's over. Actually, I'm going to bring this a little bit more over because we've got that uneven edge there. Pin that. If you pin close to here, then you should be able to see on the other side that you've gone over the gap. So can you see there? Gone over that gap. That's what we want. That's what we want to do, in fact. And we'll pin on this side. And we should pick up here. And bring it in. So pin from the outside in. Once we're sure that we're okay with this position, we'll pin from the outside in. And that won't mean that we can remove our pins as we go along. So again, don't want to stretch this too much. That. There we go. That's the other side. Okay, so I'll just do that now. Okay, so we're pinned all the way around now on the inside. We've got a nice neat line. And we're going to stitch in the ditch. I'm going to stitch in the ditch this edge. We're going to leave a gap here in that ditch stitching, so we can insert the elastic. So about an inch worth of a gap here. So right side out so we can see the ditch. We are going to stitch in that gap there. So you can line this up with the foot on this inner piece here. You can see this line, if we can zoom in a bit, that line there. is where we're going to line up the fabric to, in order for that needle to go down into that ditch successfully. Yeah. I'm going to carry on using the stretchy stitch. I'm going to use a stretchy stitch and see how it goes. I've never done this before. Normally you'd use a straight stitch to go through the ditch. Because I'm using a knit fabric, I thought I will give it a go and see how it turns out. So, as I say, we're going to skip an inch here. So I'll just move us along to the other side of that needle. I think I'll start here. Just past that needle, that purple needle there, and start this one. So line up our ditch, take this needle out so we don't stitch over it, and I'm going to start. So put my needle down, do my start, and begin. As I say, let the machine do the work for you. Don't be tempted to pull on this fabric. Oh, and what we've got here is my thread starting to wane, so I'm going to need to stop. Just sort out this issue here that we've got with the thread. Never say it happens to everybody. So I'll sort out this problem here where my thread is split. Rethread this needle. Take a look where we were. So we had started to get the problem about here. You can see where we started to get the problem. There, that piece. So we'll just go back to there just to be sure that we're secure. Whereabouts it was, I think. So I'll put our needle back in at this point. Do our securing stitch. And go over again. So about here. And just do our finishing stitch. Okay, so what we've got here now is our edge stitched all the way around on the inside. As you can see, it's overstitched quite well on the inside with a gap here. And a pretty decent seam on the outside, pretty decent kind of invisible seam there. And again, it's quite forgiving, this fabric, because once we insert that elastic into here, I'm going to see that a lot less. So I'm going to tidy up my edges here. And that's in for the elastic, so I need to cut the elastic. Keep your piece straight. Get a safety pin. Feed that in. And find your gap on the inside and start to feed that through. So just tickle it into there. And start pulling that through. So what I like to do with elastic, what not everybody does, once we've fed this through and we've secured it, I like to actually stitch it to the jersey on the side seams. And the reason for that is so like that it doesn't flip and bend over, which can be quite annoying. And you know, it can kind of twist within the band, which is a bit of a pain when you're trying to like put pants on a wriggly baby. So I'm going to try and avoid that by stitching the side seams up once the elastic's through. Now what that might mean is it might not be as stretchy, but in theory, as long as the stretch and as long as the wrinkles, the ruffles here, are the same on both sides, we shouldn't have too much of a problem. So, yeah, so really, really crucial, making sure that this elastic is all the right way around when you join it. So it's going to make that band, you're not going to put a twist in it. That's really, really important. So that's how I'm going to sew that piece of elastic is like this before it goes back into the band to make sure that it's even. So I'm going to just go around this elastic. I'm going to overlap it about 1/2 inch. I'm going to overlap it by about 1/2 inch and sew it closed like that. So sew it straight down the middle first. Give me the overlap. So it's definitely not going to go anywhere. Clip off the ends. And then finally, like I say, once we've got these edges in, we can sew pants closed and also sew this elastic in so it's not going to go anywhere. Just trim that up. Pull our elastic into our gap so it's nice and tidy. I'm going to sew this pants open and closed. So again, I just want to make sure that's overlapping that gap, which you can see that I can feel that it is. Keep our elastic out the way, and then do the same as we did before. I'm bringing that to the ditch and then stitching through. There we go. If we have a look, yeah, that's nice and sealed now. Sealed pants. Our elastic's still free in there, but what we are going to do is just kind of try and even out this stretchy bit here. So it's got a bit of an even amount of wrinkles on both sides. Can you see that? Nice even amount of wrinkles on both sides. Not too bad there. And then I'm going to just stitch down these two edges. So like that, there's no chance it flips. So again, just down that side seam. Just a few stitches, nothing a lot. So do your few little stitches on that seam. It's just going to secure that elastic there, and again on this seam, and then until you stretch that out, you won't even notice that one. Finish off our edges and we're done. Little baby pants.